Hello, and welcome to another chat, for want of a better word. And this one came up because it was something that came up when we were discussing things that people had asked about on, I think, Facebook, when Rachel had put up about, was there anything you'd like us to cover? And one of them was Poppets and making them. And I think the suggestion was doing it as a live. Which could be interesting, but also to try and get all four of us together at any one time is already tricky enough. So adding something like that in, we might do that in the future. We're not saying no, but in the meantime, I thought this was something that I could do as a recording because we actually already have stuff on Poppets. So this is like a little overview. It's not going to take long. I'm certainly not going to do anything because my crafting skills are rubbish, as you will see from one of my latest little Poppets. But yeah, this is literally just meant as a little catch up, a little reminder, if you like, of the fact that we already have two specific blogs on this. So the first one that I found, Rachel did a blog with an attached, I think it's something like 45-50 minute film. I think it was from one of her Friday morning chats a couple of years ago, about working magic, creating a puppet. There is a blog going to be with this recording, and if you go to that, you will get the link straight through. Other than that, go to Rachel Patterson. Okay, let's do this properly. www.rachelpatterson.co.uk. Go to her blog section on her website and you will find all her blogs there, but it's there. There is another one that was actually done by one of our lovely students, Ava. This one is just a blog post, and this is on the kitchenwitch.net site, and it's Magical Poppet by Ava. So those two are there already. There are other not so obvious ones. So those are the two that came up when I just typed in Poppet. But there are others that where Poppets have been included because they are good with that spell work. I've got I think I included it with the hexes, curses, and bindings, because Poppets are very useful for bindings. But yeah, have a look through the blog post because you will find quite a few that have already been done, not specifically on Poppets. And as I say, we're not saying we're never going to do a live. It's just that at the moment, trying to get all four of us together is a bit tricky. And as my crafting skills are absolutely rubbish, I'm certainly not going to do a live. But I will do this as a little reminder, if you like. So most people, when you say Poppet, think of a person shape. They don't have to be person shaped. I actually quite like working with different shapes. Even if I am doing something for healing for a person, I will, if I know what their favourite flower is, for instance, I will attempt to cut out. I know what the shape is meant to be, even if nobody else does. But I will attempt to cut out their favourite flower shape and use that. Animals. Our Baz isn't a well girl at the moment. So I actually have got a very recent Poppet that is, for me, Baz shaped. And I chose I don't know if you can actually see that on the screen, but the felt that I used is sort of like a browny coppery colour with like a sparkle to it, which actually is very similar to one, because she's a tricoloured Jack Russell something, and one of her colours is very similar to this. So, and she has a pink collar. So this is my Baz Healing Looking After pouch poppet that I can hold and just infuse some healing into. The other thing that I did when she hurt, because she's got arthritis, so she knocked one of her front shoulders, so she was limping a little bit on that the other day. So I actually stuck a little pin in this left side shoulder to just pinpoint where I wanted the healing to go to. And yeah, so that's now you can see why I say that I'm not going to do this live. my crafting skills are not good. Anybody looking at that would not know that was a Baz. But that's fine, because I do. So yeah, so classic sort of shapes. So you can get the ones where they've got the legs. I actually quite like my poppets to stand, so I tend to make them this shape. If it's meant to be male, then I will actually do like a trouser shape bit of stitching on here, because then what I do when I stitch it together and do the bottom is I actually do a round bit so that it will stand. But yeah, basically you just have two pieces of person shaped. And again, look, they're not very well cut out because that's just me. But yeah, so person shaped. Another shape that I use a lot, other than flowers, and I'm just getting this ready to do this for somebody that I know, I use hearts. I find heart shapes are quite handy for all sorts, for friendship, for healing, anything. And I use different colours depending on what it's for, who it's for, because you're just adding layers to your attention by using different colours. And I tend to use felt because it's easy. It's nice to sew, and it doesn't leak, because obviously a lot of things leak. So if you are using some finer, I don't use powders in any of them, simply because of that. A powder will leak out of virtually anything. But if you've got quite a fine herb that you're using, that will leak out of cottons, I've found. So that's why I tend to use felt, because I just think it's a lot simpler. But you can use any material, obviously, and any colour. What do you then stuff it with? You can use the stuffing as part of your intention. It depends on how stuffed you want it to be. So if you want it to be quite plumptious, then you could use either some of the cut-off material, because that's all part of your intention, or you can use cotton wool balls, or you can get that special stuffing for, I can't even think what it's called now, but that stuff that you can get that you can use for stuffing. If you don't want it that plumptious, then you can just put in your herbs, dried flowers. I tend to try and use whole spices if I'm using anything like that. You can put in crystal chips, you could put in pebbles. If you've got little silver jewellery items that actually match your intent, then they could go in, or you could sew them onto the outside. The other thing that I always tend to put in is a piece of folded paper. Again, sometimes in the colour. Other than that, I just use white, because white is all colours together, with either the name of the person or the reason why I've made the poppet, or a sigil where I've actually got the letters. If it's quite a long sentence, then I will actually just use the consonants and I'll make a sigil from it. Or I have used runes, and I have used as well. So the world is your oyster. You know, you're only limited by your own imagination as to what you can put in a poppet. I'll come to disposal. So disposing of them. If you have put crystal chips or little silver medallion type things in, then you might want to undo your poppet and retrieve those, cleanse them, because then they can be used again. Other than that, you can dispose them just by putting in the rubbish or trash, or you can burn them, as long as you haven't made it with anything that's toxic. If you are going to bury them, then you need to make sure that they are compostable, that they are biodegradable, that there is nothing toxic in them. And coming to that, what I would also say is that you need to make sure that whatever you've used is indigenous to your country. And I'm saying that because two of the things that I actually quite like using for rotting down spells, and for that, healing. Yes, you can use them for cursing and hexing and doing all sorts of other things, but we'll be nice and we'll go with the healing. So if you've got somebody who has a cough, a cold, a tumour, whatever, use a potato, use an apple. That's for me in this country, UK, because they are things that grow in this country. And I would put my intention in that as they rot, so the cold, the chest infection, the tumour would disperse and go, and the earth would take the badness and deal with it, because they will rot into the soil and just become compost. So you can do that. If you want to put a bit of paper in, again, I have done it with potato and I have done it with apple, because you can make a slit enough that you can poke a bit of paper in, but again, make sure it is paper that will compost. So for that, I tend to use tissue paper, because I know that's going to biodegrade quite quickly, whereas other papers will, but they'll take a lot longer. But yeah, burning's good. As I say, as long as you haven't put anything toxic in there. Anything else that I need to add to this? I'm just checking through now. Oh, now, do you have to dispose of your poppet? Not necessarily, because sometimes you want that energy to continue for whatever reason. So if you've got somebody who has a chronic health issue and you want to continue sending them healing, obviously you're only doing this if they've asked you, or you've asked permission to do it. You don't just do it. You have to ask permission before you send healing to anyone. You can actually recharge your poppet. Now, there are different ways of doing this. One of my favourite ways is just to hold the poppet between my hands. I call energy down, I call energy up, I call energy from the side, and I just channel that energy into the poppet, saying that I am recharging it for the purpose that I made it. You can also, if you've used herbs in your poppet, you can actually make a powder. So you can grind powder, and then you could sprinkle just a tiny little bit onto your poppet. You could undo a little bit of it, or you could have left a little bit of it with maybe just a safety pin in a corner, and then you can add the powder into there, or you could add another little crystal chip, or you could add another, if you've used cloves, for example, you could undo the pin and just add another little clove, just saying that you are reboosting the energy to that person. So no, you don't have to dispose of your poppets. Your poppets can be long term. I've never reused a poppet. If a poppet has been for a specific purpose, I personally have never undone it and reused, other than crystals or pebbles or those little silver medallion things. I've never repurposed a whole poppet. If anybody has, please put it in the comments, because that would be really interesting. To me, it's if it's done its job and I don't need it to carry on, then I dispose of it. There are several books that are very handy for this sort of thing. First one I'll say is obviously Rachel's book, A Kitchen Witch's World of Magical Plants and Herbs, because this is one of my absolute go-tos for everything to do with herbs and plants. So if you are looking for any information, obviously there's that one. If you want something quite quick and easy, then Lucia has got this one. This is another Pagan Portals book, Poppets and Magical Dolls. I think this came out in 2018, I want to say. Yeah, 2018. And it's being a Pagan Portals, it's nice, it's quick, it's got nice bullet points, it's got some spells and things in it as well, so very handy. If you want something a bit more juicy, there's this one by Silver Ravenwolf, Poppet Magic. This one also came out in 2018, and as you can tell, is a little bit more involved. Very handy. She's got patterns in here as well. She has all sorts of. Sorry, that's actually Bazzy knocking at me to say that she wants me to stop doing what I'm doing, which I will do in a second, because this has obviously gone on for a little while now. But yeah, this is quite a useful book if you want something a little bit more substantial to help you with your poppet making. I hope this has been useful. I hope that if you want the links, you pop over to the blog, have a look on that. As I say, we're not saying we're not going to do a live on Poppets, but it takes a little bit more organising because it takes all four of us to be together at the same time. So yes, I really do hope this is useful. Please let us know in the comments, and I will see you next time.